Governor DeWine, thanks so much for joining us this morning. You know, you and I were supposed to meet in person about 3 weeks ago, and the situation quickly changed, to say the least. So I want to get your general thoughts at this point on the state of health in Ohio and how we're dealing with Omicron and Delta.
Well, we're certainly in a different phase in January. And I think, as far as our hospitals are concerned, what we're really, worried about is our hospitals filling up. They're filling up. Northeast Ohio, they're very, very full. And I talked to hospitals, I did this morning, about that situation. That's why we sent in the National Guard. As of tomorrow morning, we'll have over 2,200 members of the Guard, either in hospitals, most of them in Northeast Ohio, or in testing sites. And the purpose of the testing sites is not only to get people tested and give them the results, but also to take pressure off the emergency rooms of our hospitals. So the real concern now is hospitals. I do have some optimism. If we look at what has happened in other states, this Omicron comes on very fast, spreads very, very quickly. But, it also, once it starts down, it generally goes down pretty quickly as well. So I think we're going to have a tough January as far as our hospitals are concerned. But I hope after that things will get, closer to normal. Our solution to all this remains the same. We've got about 70% of our adults in the state of Ohio who are now vaccinated. And our hospitals are really being filled up by people primarily who are not vaccinated. So the solution is ready at hand, and that is, more vaccinations.
Mm-hmm. At the beginning of the pandemic, so going back to March 2020 and then the months following, Ohio was this shining example nationwide of a state that was getting it right. And now we're making all these lists for being the top for hospitalizations and having high number of COVID cases. So what happened and how do we get off of these lists?
Well, what we've seen with this virus is it goes from area to area, from state to state. I mean, we're even seeing that in Ohio. We're being hit much harder in northern Ohio than we are in southern Ohio today, but it's clearly moving. So a few weeks ago, Michigan was, getting really, really pounded. So the answer is simple, and that is vaccines. We had over 1 million people last month who got their booster shot. Booster shots are very, very powerful. We had about 200,000 people last month who got their shot for the first time. So that is the solution, and it is simply more people getting vaccinated. And that's what we have to continue every single day to focus on.
So from what you're seeing, the numbers of why we are at the top of these lists, do you believe it's because Ohioans aren't vaccinated and that contributed to the problem?
Well, if you look at where Ohio is, for example, on booster shots, and you look at that as a percentage of people who've got a shot, how many of them have got a booster shot? We're 8th. So we're in pretty good shape there. If you look at the other metrics, we're usually around the middle. So, you can compare other states to us. The fact is that we have to focus on Ohio. We have to make sure that people have the access to the shots. We have over 2,000 places in Ohio now where people are able to get shots. They can get them at their pharmacy. We're setting up other locations where people can get shots. So, that remains really how we move forward on this and how we save lives. If you're vaccinated and if you've got your booster shot, you're pretty darn safe. The odds of you getting it to the extent that you end up in the hospital, it's probably not going to happen. So people who are driving this in our hospitals, who are filling our hospitals up, are people who are not vaccinated.
A big problem, especially here in Northeast Ohio, we saw long lines over the holidays, is testing and access to testing. I mean, whether boosted, vaccinated, unvaccinated, it's really hard to find the at-home test. We've covered it extensively. And then when testing was available, like at the hospitals, we saw just such a strong demand. I know you mentioned vaccination or testing sites at the beginning of our interview here. What's a solution moving forward? How are we going to get more testing sites and more test kits available to people?
Well, we've done something in Ohio that most other states did not do. We purchased a lot of these home tests. We early on did that. We have now distributed, I think, 5.5 million through our local health departments, but also through our libraries. I want to thank the libraries for doing that. But we have the same problem in Ohio that's across this country. We're not producing enough tests in this country. And that remains a problem. We are now deploying the National Guard to assist in setting up these sites all over the state of Ohio to augment the other opportunities that people have to get tested. So the Walker Center, for example, we're also setting up, we're in Akron within the next few days. We will be up in Canton and Mansfield, and these will be sites that will be manned primarily by the Ohio National Guard.
Yeah. And in the meantime, as a parent who's sending kids back to school, I know that masks in schools, vaccinations, it's been a hotbed of controversy between people who have different philosophies. I know you recommended masks in schools. Do you have a message to any school districts? I know that they make decisions on their own as to how to keep our kids safe as they do head back to the classroom, either this week or whether it's next week.
Well, the most important thing, parents can do is have their children vaccinated. We're seeing our children's hospitals, made a plea because they're filling up as well with children. They made a plea last week to all the schools in the state and asked them to mask. And I think the good news is that this Omicron, we think it will fade. But January and maybe the first couple of weeks in February are going to be tough. And if schools want to stay in session, which I think everybody wants our kids in school, we understand that having kids out of school puts tremendous stress on families. It puts stress on kids. It's not the best way to educate kids is remotely. So we want our kids to stay in school. If we want our kids to be in school, the most important thing we can do is have them vaccinated, but also for the schools to mandate masking, because we found in doing this for 2 years that the virus does not spread very much in school when children are in fact masked. If they're not wearing masks, it not only spreads in school, but then it goes back to those families, maybe infecting a grandmother who is vulnerable. So masking right now is very important.
Yeah, I'm going to switch gears here a little bit. And I don't expect you to remember this, but I remember the last time you and I Zoomed, it was January 6th, the morning of January 6th last year. And I was, we were all excited to have an interview with the governor. And then the news quickly switched to the attack on the Capitol. And now that we're on this anniversary, I want to bring up something and get your take on it, because there was a recent USA Today Suffolk University poll. I want to read an excerpt from it. It said, across partisan lines, more than 8 in 10 Republicans, Democrats, and independents say they are worried about the future of America's democracy. They disagree on the January 6th mob represented in an effort to undermine democracy or fix it. So I just want to get your thoughts as we're on this anniversary. What is the state of our democracy? Did that undermine in any way our democracy? Are we in any way broken as we are standing here a year later?
Well, one bad day, does not define this country, and it does not define the vast majority of Americans who are dedicated to the Constitution, believe in the Constitution, believe in the future of this country. So I'm optimistic about the future of our country. That was not a good day. That was a bad day, but we are resilient. We are strong. We have to refocus on our Constitution. I think that's something where liberals and conservatives, Republicans and Democrats ought to be able to agree upon. So we've weathered other storms in this country. We certainly will weather this storm.
Also, recently you signed a bill allowing sports betting in Ohio, and I know that we are going to get an influx of tax money from that. Where do you see that tax money going towards?
Well, the legislature has decided how that is going to be spent. Part of that is going to go to education, but I just a little caution. I remember, years and years ago when the lottery came in, and some people thought, well, that's going to solve all our educational funding challenges. And although the lottery does provide a lot of money for education, we certainly still have challenges. So no one should look at sports gaming as going to be something that solves all our education funding problem. That's simply not going to happen. It's going to be used. It will be helpful, but it's not going to be of such magnitude that it's going to take away the responsibility we all have to, focus on other things in regard to our schools and school funding.
And before I let you go, I know you have a busy day. We have a new mayor in Cleveland, Justin Bibb. Have you had a chance to talk to him at all?
I have. I called him right away. We talked when I was in Cleveland a few weeks ago. We're going to sit down and talk again. And it's important for the governor to have a good relationship with the mayor of Cleveland, with the mayor of the other major cities in the state of Ohio. I had a very good relationship and have a good relationship with the previous mayor, Frank Jackson. And the new mayor, I'm going to have a good relationship as well. I think it's important for Cleveland. It's important for the region, important for the state.
Well, Governor, I really appreciate your time. Thanks so much for talking with us. I know that this is some unusual and strange times, some difficult times for a lot of us here in Ohio. And I know we will be chatting as we move forward in 2022.
I look forward to that. And maybe just as if I could, just as we begin this new year, I'm very optimistic about the future of the state of Ohio. We are now creating in Ohio more jobs every day than we have employees to fill it. We're seeing businesses come off the East Coast, come off the West Coast. They're looking to states like Ohio. Ohio has we've kept taxes low, we kept regulation low. We've created a business climate in the state that I think is conducive for businesses to grow. We're seeing great things happen in Northeast Ohio. We saw Sherwin-Williams, who a couple of years ago was looking at deciding whether they're going to move or stay in Ohio. They're doubling down on Ohio with the two new facilities, one the research facility, one the headquarters. We're also seeing something that we have really pushed, and that's the innovation district, where you're seeing competing hospitals. You're seeing Metro, Cleveland Clinic coming together along with Case, along with Cleveland State, to really create this synergistic relationship to grow jobs and to grow opportunity, to get better medical care. And that's an exciting thing as well. So very, very optimistic about where we're going. Lake Erie remains a great asset. Our H2 Ohio program, I think, has been very, very successful. The whole goal is to keep the algae bloom down in the state. We've set up a 10-year program. We're in our third year of that, and that's working very well as well. My goal every day is to do everything I can so that every Ohioan, no matter where they're growing up, whether it's in a city or rural areas or the suburbs, east, west, north, south, every Ohioan has the opportunity to live up to their full potential. And that's why we put so much emphasis on education, something that Fran's worked on. The Dolly Parton Imagination Library is kind of a symbol of that focus. We now have 43% of the kids 0 to 5 in the state getting a free book, every single month. It's open to every single child in the state. But it's focusing on these kids at an early age is really our best investment in the future of the state of Ohio. So very optimistic. I think we're gonna have a good year.
Yeah, absolutely. Great perspective, a great reminder. I think a lot of people are focusing on some of the downers that are happening to kick off the year, but that's a great reminder. We're also very excited about all the innovation happening here in Northeast Ohio and education for kids. You're speaking my language over here.
Nothing more important. There's nothing more important we can do.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Governor, I really appreciate your time. I look forward to talking to you much more throughout the coming year.
Thank you very much.
Have a great day.
Thank you.